to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making ricotta ravioli alla poblana. Andiamo! There are certain trifectas in the Mexican culinary universe. You have a la mexicana, which is tomato, onions, and peppers, serrano or jalapeño. But you also have a la poblana, which is poblano peppers, onions, and corn. I was gently reminded that I still have in my freezer rajas from when back in September my husband got me a 5-pound crate of poblano peppers. And not too long ago I also froze a little bit of white corn. So the sum of all that led me into the path of recipe development, or more properly named craving development. And I thought, why not ricotta ravioli alla poblana? So join me in this journey of this happy interracial marriage. Let's go! First, I'm gonna start by caramelizing some onion. Add equal parts of oil and butter into a thick bottom pan, preferably a cast iron if you can. Now we'll take a big yellow onion and cut both ends. Cut it half lengthwise, and following the grain we're gonna slice it into 1/4 inch half moons. Add salt and mix well to get them sweaty. I like to start mine with the lid on for around 15 minutes. Then I remove the lid and come every so often to mix them. This is how they look after 40 minutes. As you can see, there's brown bits at the bottom, so it's time for us to deglaze. So take 1/4 cup of water, put it on, and mix. Scrape the fond to get all that sweet flavor. Caramelizing onions take time, but be patient and don't stop short. Wait until they start getting the actual caramel color. These might take around 60 minutes, so be patient and have that in mind before you start. Here's how they look after 60 minutes. For me, this is fine, but you can go even darker. But I'll stop here. I'll place them in a container and set them aside to cool down. Now let's go on with the poblano part of this dish. Clean oil, 2 garlic cloves finely diced, and get that aromatics going. Now I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of corn. I'm using white corn because I had it, but in this case you can absolutely use sweet yellow corn. I'm gonna add 3/4 cup of rajas. Rajas are poblano peppers that have been roasted and peeled and then cut into strips. If you don't know how to do that, don't you worry, because I'm tagging a video that I have where I explain everything from beginning to end in a short video. Don't forget to season with salt and pepper, give it a mix and turn the heat off. Now I'm gonna add 1/3 of my caramelized onions that I had cooled down. The heat is off because my onions are already cooked and I don't want them to continue cooking. I'm just mixing it up, and as soon as I'm done mixing, I'm gonna place it in another container and let it rest. But before I continue, a shout out is due. As you can see, I have a new tabletop sponsored by my mother-in-law, Kathy. She was tired of seeing my banged up secondhand tabletop, and she asked for measures and sent very kindly a new butcher block that my husband sanded and varnished. So thank you so much. Now let's go on with the pasta. I'm gonna start in my blender with 3 whole eggs, and to that I am going to add 1/4 cup of my rajas. This is the way I do my pasta. I am by no means a pasta expert, so you do your pasta the way you normally do it. I will be using 2 cups of double zero flour. There are different types of flour that you can use for different results. For this time, I'm using double zero because it's the most tender, and that's what I'm looking for. Don't forget to salt well that flour, whatever flour that you're using. In the center, I'm gonna add my mix of eggs and poblano, which I was kind of hoping to have a little bit more of a green hue, but it didn't, and it's perfectly alright. And now you can watch me make a mess because I was moving way too slow and things went out of hand. But don't you worry, I ended up controlling everything. Just mix fast if this happens to you, and you'll be alright. In the beginning, you'll see how it takes a little for the pasta to take the liquid, but even though it looks like you might need more, don't add more until all the flour has been hydrated. Give it a second, and honestly, like everything else, making pasta takes practice. Like I said, I am not an expert, but I have managed to do it from time to time. So if I can do it, you can do it, and you are even probably better than me at it. So just give it a mix. Use your scraper in the beginning until everything is well incorporated and you see that the pasta starts hydrating. Once the pasta starts hydrating and there's no more loose flour, you can start using your hands like you see me doing here. Give your dough a good knead until smooth and it is not longer sticking to your hands or the table. You will know when your dough is ready once you shape it into a ball, poke it with your finger, and see how it slowly springs back. It may still leave an indent, but you will see it rise back up. You don't want it to bounce because that's too much. Cover your dough with plastic so it doesn't get a nasty crust and let it sit room temperature for at least 20 minutes. While we wait, we can finish the filling. I have 15 ounces of ricotta cheese, which is one pack. And to that, I'm going to add one egg and mix well. Bring your poblano mix, give it a stir, and add as well 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. Mix again, and don't forget to season with salt and pepper. I will cover it and let it sit in the fridge while I make the pasta. Here's my dough nicely rested. I will divide it into thirds to work through my machine. To film this part, I had to move my camera and equipment to a different location, so I apologize if there is some weird camera movements or out of frame moments. This is a standard pasta machine, but if you have the mixer attachment, use that. You can even do it by hand if you're brave enough and you have the arm strength. I'm gonna start by giving the piece first 3 passes in the widest range just to get more or less a good length before dividing my pasta in half. Don't forget to lightly flour both the dough and the surface area you're working on to avoid it from sticking and then stretching out. By dividing my dough in halves, it's gonna be easier to handle since it's gonna keep longer and longer and longer. I'll be moving each piece through the machine twice on each setting until I get to the thinnest one. When doing things like this, don't you wish you had detachable extra arms to make your life easier? At least I do. As you go through all the settings, your pasta will get thinner and thinner, so be careful on how you place your hands. Remember, don't pull, just rest the pasta on your hands and let it move by itself. But be careful with your fingers because your pasta is so thin that even a little flex of your fingers can stretch it. It happened to me, not big deal, but it can rip if you're not careful. My two first sheets are ready, and before I add the filling, I brush them with egg. When it comes to making pasta for myself, I prioritize the least amount of waste over the looks. So I'm going for a fold over square shape instead of placing the filling in the center and then using both sheets to make the raviolis. You do whatever you feel more comfortable doing. If I were to make them for somebody else, I would use both sheets. I place the filling in the center and cover it with the second sheet. But like I said, the least amount of waste after all that work for the pasta, it's preferable for me. So I fold it over and using my fingers, I close the gaps, trying to get all the air out. If you feel that there's a little bit bubble of air, you can lift the top and let that air escape. And using my little cutter, I'm gonna go in between the squares to divide them. For the second sheet, I'm gonna do the same. Start by brushing some egg and then placing the filling. This time I'm gonna make my ravioli smaller and I'm using a spoon, but of course you can use a piping bag. Same process. I'm gonna fold over and this time there's gonna be a little bit of extra dough that I will need to cut, but it's still minimum amount of waste. Don't forget to sprinkle a little bit of flour on your ravioli so they don't stick to your table or amongst each other. At this point, you could even place them on a tray to freeze and then put them in a freezer bag and have them for later or cook them right away. As you can see, I have the biggies and the smallies. I'm starving, so I'm gonna cook them right away. I'll bring some water to a boil and add plenty of salt. Remember, your pasta water needs to taste like the ocean. At the same time, when my water is boiling, I already have 2 tablespoons of butter melted on my pan because this is not going to take a long time. So as soon as they're cooked from the water, they go into the pan. So carefully place your ravioli on the water. Try not to overcrowd. I know that part is difficult, but let them cook there, give them a little stir, and wait until they float. This will take around 4 minutes. If you're cooking from frozen, then it will take around 6. Straight out of the water into my pan with the melted butter. Give them a toss and don't forget to add a little bit of that pasta water to thicken the sauce. In goes the pepe. I like to see the freckles. And just one toss more and you are ready to serve. Make that cheese rain on top of them and bring to the dining table. And here they are. I already had them yesterday for dinner, so I know how delicious they are, but it's already lunchtime, so. Before I tell you how delicious they are, let's address the greater elephant in the room, and that is that Arsenal are Premier League champions. That's all. They are very creamy and the ingredients pair perfectly well together. When developing recipes, you have to think of the bite. It is not about how many things you can put in together, but what each element brings to the table. So by caramelizing the onion, you bring sweetness. With the rajas, you have the roasty and the earthiness. And the corn will bring taste and texture. So next time you're coming up with something, think about how you can increase or elevate each ingredient. And I hope this recipe inspires you to create and come up with your own great ideas. This one are very subtle in the Poblano. I would like it even a little bit more. So if you are planning to make them and you want a more Poblano punch, then I'll say make a Poblano cream salsa. Blend in some rajas with milk or cream, toast it in a little bit of butter with garlic, and drench your ravioli. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe just like this video. And if you did, please share it with your friends. Like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues, and up the arsenal.